Well, hello everyone out there in the head couch analyst football land. I am your host Sanders, and as normal, I am joined by my co-host Pardue. It was an electric weekend of football. We had a lot of good times, and we actually got a lot of hard-hitting stuff we want to talk about this week. We haven't had an episode where I think we wanted to fit so much into one episode, so stick around. This one might be a lot of interesting information. Speaking of having interesting information, before I introduce my co-host over here, breaking news from the NFL today. They are putting out a rule called the Des Bryant rule, which allows football teams, if they have someone, when a player's out during warm-ups, come back and have their emergency test positive, they are allowed to make one of their inactive players active. I don't know how that's going to work because usually inactive players don't show up to the game. I mean, they do and they don't, right? Depends, But I don't know how they're going to have that happen, but I guess, the league will figure it out. So
I feel like probably at that point, if they're going to have that be the rule now, the inactive players are going to be showing up from that point.
Probably. Hello, Pardue. How you doing, bud?
Oh, I'm chilling. Yeah, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that. But yeah, I'm good, Cardinals snapped the 3-game win streak. We're vibing. We're in the 7th seed. I'm feeling good about it. So we're going to take it one game at a time.
Will you keep the 7th seed?
As long as we beat the Eagles this week, I feel very confidently we will.
I'll tell you something right now. I don't believe in a resurgent Bears team, but if they play like they did on Sunday, I don't believe in it, but if they did, that looks dangerous.
There was one. That's when we brought up the Vikings and Bears matchup this week. That was something I was going to mention. I still don't think they're going to have enough to take the 7th seed from the Cardinals, but I do think, spoiler alert, here's my pick. I am going Bears this week, and I think they will overtake the Vikings. And in that case, that'll be – because whoever wins that game this week, the team who loses is eliminated. They're done. So whoever wins that game is going to be in sole competition for the 7th seed between the Cardinals. But if the Cardinals are able to get a win this week, I think – and they probably should, but we know how that's kind of gone with the Cardinals this year. We'll get more into that later. And then they play the 49ers at home the following week, and the Cardinals have pretty much owned the 49ers pretty handily over the last several years. So I feel pretty good about it. Right now. So
I feel pretty good about it if I were you too. So, anyways,
I don't play out football.
Sorry, I don't have a lot for this week. I mostly just have my passing from the couch segments. Last week I had quite a bit, but I don't have anything this week. Oh, I'm going to hand it over to Pardue, and he's going to start us on our talking points. Take it away.
So the very first thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't want to spend a whole huge long time with them because at this point they're probably pretty much done in the AFC. But I kind of wanted to talk about the Raiders for a second because we've talked about them as a team that we like and we think is improving from season to season. And we thought they were a pretty good team this year. I'm going to say I don't think they're as good. Maybe they're not as good as we thought. They've now lost 3 of their last 4 after starting 6-3. And I don't quite remember what their record was last year, but they had a similar hot start last year and then fell off a cliff as well.
They're 7-5, 6-4/7-5.
And see, that to me, that's a decent enough start. And at that point, you need to be competing for a playoff spot. And I guess technically down the stretch they were.
Yeah, you got to finish.
But if you you got to finish. And that's something that the Raiders seem to be struggling to do the last 2 years is finishing their season. What do you think it is that this Raiders team is missing? And we've said how we like John Gruden, and I feel like this roster is decently set up outside the lack of pass rush. But can you identify anything on this roster or between coaching that is holding this team back from being maybe not necessarily a contender, but at least a playoff team?
If you ask me, it all lies in the secondary. Their secondary has been faltering over the last several weeks and allowing more pass yards than they have. Because I wanted to look into them, and the numbers say their secondary is allowing more. And when you watch the film, there's more big plays happening from opposing offenses, which is why they were close to losing against the Jets. So,
Mm-hmm.
and in the NFL, right, we always say, we always contradict ourselves in the NFL. We're like, January, playoff football, you got to run the ball and play defense, which, as a defensive-minded guy, I agree with. But on the other hand, it's a passing league. You have to have a quarterback to play, right? So we kind of contradict ourselves in saying, okay, do you need to pass or do you need to play defense and run, right? Because if you can play defense and run, the Raiders kind of got that. They don't have the secondary for it, but they got like 2/3 of the formula there. And they have Derek Carr. Like they should be able to win when they're not. But ultimately, in the end, when you're playing against teams for, playoff games down the stretch, right, and you're playing against guys like Phillip Rivers and T.Y. Hilton, you better be able to cover them. They did not. T.Y. Hilton had his biggest game of the year this year against the Colts, and that defense stonewalled the Raiders because the Colts defense is good, right? And you've noticed in both games they played against the Chiefs, they did not do well when it came to defense. They did really well when it came to keeping up and scoring on offense, but their defense couldn't hold that down Patrick Mahomes when they tried to. They did one game, and then the second game they couldn't do it, right? Patrick Mahomes with a minute something left, and he took him down the field right when it looked like the Raiders were going to win again. So I feel like a lot of it's the secondary, and they need some improvements there. They need a shutdown corner, and they don't have one.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with it is mostly on the defensive side. With that being said, while I can agree with the point that it is on the secondary, I don't think the secondary is being helped due to their lack of pass rush. Because it seems to me, at least personally, teams can get away with having a bit of a leakier secondary if you're able to generate pass rush. And the Raiders just don't have that either. And you always look back at that Khalil Mack trade and you think, well, where would this team be and where would this defense be if you had Khalil Mack? I think that's something that they'll need to address in the offseason because I think personally that's what's holding them back. And I think pass rush is honestly still more important than the back end.
Someone to put across Max Crosby.
Right. So in all, I'd agree. It's their defensive side that's mostly holding them back. But I think at this point, if it's this time next year and they're in the same situation where they falter down the stretch and are kind of just the same middling team that they have been this year, where do you think they go in terms of John Gruden? I know he signed that huge 10-year contract, but he's finally built the roster he was supposed to have, or at least close to it, and the dividends aren't being paid yet. So do you think – I wouldn't necessarily say they move on from him, but do you think they start to question their decision and especially how long they gave him – how big of a deal they gave him?
I don't think you question John Gruden, and here's why. So 4 years ago, I wrote probably my favorite article I've ever written for football, which examined why John Harbaugh and Sean Payton were not fired amidst the 3 years that they did not make the playoffs in a row. Usually when you're with a storied franchise and you do really, really, really well, and then suddenly you have a 3-year skid, at the end of that third year, you're fired. Right? Mm-hmm. And McCarthy was fired after I think it was his second year in a row not making the playoffs. So he didn't even get a third year. McCarthy didn't. The reason Sean Payton stayed in New Orleans and the reason they extended him even after 3 years of not doing well was because his offenses were still top 5. He, as the head coach, and for what you hired Sean Payton for, was still doing his job. The defensive coordinators were not. That's why they fired defensive coordinators, revamped their defense, drafted defensive players, and they said, hey, Sean Payton's got this. We just need to give him defensive help. The same thing happened with John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, despite his teams not doing well, it was the offense that was the problem, and John Harbaugh has always been a guy who focuses on special teams because that's what he was, a special teams coordinator, and helps out on defense. Baltimore's defense was still top 10, not top 5, but top 10, and the special teams unit has been top 3 every single year that John Harbaugh's been there. And I'm talking statistically. When I did my research for this 4 years ago, they were top 3. And I imagine with Justin Tucker and Sam Koch, they've still been top 3 for the last 4 years since I did my research. that's why they stuck around. Whereas McCarthy had, I believe, if I remember the numbers, he was top 5 for his first 6 years, and then he dropped to number 11. Funnily enough, the year the Packers' offense dropped to number 11 was the year they won the Super Bowl. It's just because their defense improved combined with their offense. But actually, McCarthy's worst offense in his prime years was the one that won the Super Bowl. It's kind of funny. Then they went back to top 5 for a few years. That was around the time that Aaron Rodgers was just fucking over everyone because he's Aaron Rodgers after that Super Bowl win. And then they dropped to 16. And then they dropped to 21 because Rodgers got injured. Then they went to number 4. And then 2017 when he was fired, I think they were 18th when he was fired. So McCarthy wasn't doing his job, right? He was hired to be an offensive guru, was not doing it consistently enough. So whereas Harbaugh kept his job because he was doing what he was hired for, Sean Payton was doing what he was hired for, McCarthy was not. And I think the same thing goes for Gruden here. I also, funnily enough, in that article, Gruden was the first coach I mentioned because this is around the time he was hired, and I talked about the path of success for Gruden. And in that article, I talked about as long as he coaches an offense that can win games, he will stick around for most of the 10 years, if not all. And I think so far he's done that. Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, Darren Waller, they all work. The offensive line is pretty nasty. Like, the offense works. I think when you look at the Raiders, you don't talk about the offense as the problem. You don't talk about their inability to score. You talk about their inability to not let the other team score, right? So I think you do what you did with Sean Payton, and you trust that your offensive-minded coach keeps the offense going and get a new defensive coordinator or start stocking up on defensive players and see how it works.
I totally buy that. Now, I think John Gruden has a pretty big hand in the coaching staff hires. So I think that's something we're going to need to monitor going forward is John Gruden picking the right guy. I don't know about you, but that's all I got on the Raiders.
Well, they already fired their defensive coordinator this year. So
Right. So that's a step in the right direction, but we'll see who they replace him with because, I mean, I think hiring coordinators is one of the most difficult jobs to do. Like, it's easier to steal a coordinator who's ready for a head coaching gig than it is to go try and find another coordinator because you're usually probably having to go to the college ranks to find somebody. And I just think it's a harder position to fill than, quite honestly, than head coach.
I'll tell you right now, though, I don't like who the current defensive coordinator is for the Raiders after they fired him. They're having Rod Marinelli come in, and he was the head coach who was the head coach of the infamous 0-16 Lions. I'm not saying he can't be a coordinator, right? But his track record in the NFL hasn't been great, I would say. He did get to coach Brian Urlacher when he was a defensive line coach on the Bears, and he did get to coach DeMarcus Ware when he was a defensive line coach for the Cowboys. So it's not like he hasn't had success on the defensive line, and he's gotten to coach Max Crosby this year. I would say he's great in those aspects. But it's quite possible that he may not be the answer at defense, I would say, for defensive coordinator. So I hope the Raiders find someone else besides Rob Marinelli.
All right. And then going to another AFC West team, I wanted to talk about the Chiefs. At this point, just give up. Let's just call the season. You're not beating them. Let's just end it, guys. Let's take COVID seriously. Let's make sure nobody else gets sick. Let's just end the season now and crown the Chiefs champs again. Because at this point, I realistically cannot see anybody beating them. And yeah, you could say, oh, well, they've won like their last 4 games by 1 score. Number one, you play who's on your schedule. And number 2, like, the majority of NFL games are 1 score. You're not going to blow out teams every week, especially when you're playing teams like the Dolphins, who are a good football team. That being said, you and I have said multiple times on this podcast, more you, because that's been your formula, and so far you've been right. You need to score 35-plus and more on the plus side to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's been my motto since our first episode. Score 35 points and you can beat the Chiefs. Don't score 35 points, you won't beat them. I said that our first episode, and I've never ever tracked away from it because it's true.
Now, you want to hear something funny? Even when Patrick Mahomes plays poorly, and by poorly I am defining that as 2 or more turnovers in a game. So whenever Patrick Mahomes has had 2 or more turnovers in a game, the Chiefs have scored bare minimum still 35 points in every game he has multiple turnovers in. Even when Patrick Mahomes, the key cog in everything for the Chiefs, the best quarterback in the league, is having one of his worst days, you're not beating the Chiefs. And if Patrick Mahomes... What was that?
Unless you score 35 points.
I mean, yeah, unless you score 35 points, but even when, but like I'm saying, even when Patrick Mahomes is playing poorly, he's still scoring 35 points. At least. And you're not going to beat that realistically, because the amount of times that Patrick Mahomes is going to have a bad game is not high. Because I think, if I remember correctly, when I saw that same stat, he's only had multiple turnovers in a game 5 times.
Correct.
So you're just not beating him. Like, I don't realistically trust a team. Because, like, the Chiefs are going to control the ball for a lot of the game in the first place. It's not like they have the ability to be a quick strike offense. Obviously, you've got guys like Tyreek Hill. But they're going to spend time with the ball. And if you can't control the football, good luck. I just don't see it, man. Like, I honestly can't see any team giving them a hard time. And like, you obviously you're going to lose some games, but they've only lost 1 this year, and it was to the Raiders, a division rival. All division games are tough games. And didn't the Raiders score 40?
No, the Raiders did not score 40. They scored 34, I think. Let me go look. Oh, yeah, you're right. They did score 40. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. The Raiders had to completely explode and drop 40 to beat them. Dropping 40 on any defense in the National Football League is not easy. If that's what you have to do to beat the Chiefs come playoff time, good luck. And like, I hate to say it, if they do it this year, the Chiefs are the next great dynasty, man.
Yeah,
and we're going to be dealing with them. We're going to be dealing with them just like they were the Patriots, because they're going to be very, very hard to stop, because Patrick Mahomes is just going to keep getting better. The weapons he has are incredible. He has 2 of the top 3 receivers in terms of yardage on his team, and Travis Kelce, who, by the way, Travis Kelce leads the league in receiving yards as a tight end. And if he finishes there at the end of the year, will be the first tight end in NFL history to lead the league in receiving yards for a season. And to have 2 of the top 3 in receiving yards, that's just insane. You're not stopping it. So enjoy your Super Bowl, Chiefs fans. If you're going back to back, enjoy it, because I just don't see it, man. I don't see anybody beating them.
I mean, I'm not totally against you here, but also, I will say, at the same time, there's a reason we play the games.
Obviously. And anything can happen. The Jets almost won a game a couple weeks ago. Come on. Anything could happen.
So I would say that, actually, I think Kansas City's biggest threat is Buffalo. I would say.
I would agree with that.
I think
I would say they're the most well-rounded team.
Yes, and I think they have the offense to compete, for a shootout. I think the Bills got it. They got the offense to compete. Now, would they beat them? I really don't know. Right? It all depends on can you get a turnover on Patrick Mahomes, but then can you take advantage of the turnover? I think the key to beating the Chiefs is you have to force errors out of Patrick Mahomes, and then you have to capitalize on those errors. You are not allowed to say, "Oh, we got a turnover, but we're punting the ball back to them again." Right? You are not allowed to do that. You have to score on a turnover.
Mm-hmm.
You have to score on a punt. When you force the Chiefs to punt, you must score. Field goal or touchdown, I don't care. You must score at least some amount of points. If you go ahead and punt the ball right back, you might as well have just not had that turnover at all or that defensive effort at all. It don't matter.
You might as well just cut your punter pregame too, because if you're not scoring every drive, you're done.
Yeah, why do you
just
think
cut your punter pregame to set the precedence?
Yeah, why did you think teams last year were going for it on 4th down on their own 30 against the Chiefs? Because they knew.
Uh-huh.
They knew.
All right. You got anything else left on the Chiefs?
Nope.
I think I've said my piece.
Yeah,
all right, so
you're good.
This was something I've been thinking about for a couple weeks now, and it started to heat up and heat up and heat up every single passing week. And I felt like it's a perfect, at this point, because it's gotten so hot, and it's a perfect mix of, the Cardinals fan and me and the Ravens fan and you to finally have this conversation.
Yeah, but we get along.
Right. We get along. So let's preface this. A lot of our listeners probably are Ravens and Cardinals fans, specifically Cardinal fans, because we're in the Arizona area, and not to suck my own dick or anything.
Yeah, you have bigger followers. No, you can say it.
Right. I have an okay following on Twitter. It's grown a lot this year.
You're considered the face of Cardinals Twitter by some people, and you're considered the top Andrew on Cardinals Twitter when some guy named Andrew Leasis exists. You don't have to be modest. We know you're the MVP.
See, I feel like I still have a long way to grow, and I'm only at 615 in terms of followers. But I feel like people do recognize me on Twitter, and even people that don't follow me interact with me and everything. So and a lot of my tweets, every single day, it almost seems like I'm getting a tweet with 50, 60 likes. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So anyway, enough boasting and blowing my own horn here. But
no, you're allowed to say it though. Be proud of that. Be proud of that.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so as of right now, I feel like first things first. I just want to say, maybe it's just because that's who we are. But I feel like the Ravens and Cardinals fan bases on Twitter can be some of the most toxic fan bases of any sports team, of any sport on Twitter. It's honestly really ridiculous. And it's not everyone. But I would say it's definitely a 50-50 split, because there's some really great Cardinal fans that I interact with every single day. And there's some great Ravens fans that I've interacted with. But then there's really, really terrible ones on both sides that give everybody a bad name. And it's really unfortunate. And I wish my fan base could be better, but I also kind of get it because we've been so battered and bruised over the years.
Yeah, you guys are salty about being a losing franchise.
Good things. Right. But the Ravens are a winning franchise, and you guys want your coach fired every year.
Dude, you know what? They've been wanting Harbaugh fired since his 3-year slump. You know how mad it makes me? That whole thing was originally why I wrote the article, but I knew as someone who, you know me, I always like to try and give unbiased takes, right? I do my best to give unbiased takes, and I'm very honest about my team, right? But when I wrote that article, I wrote it with John Harbaugh in mind, but I was like, there's no way I can only write about John Harbaugh without some bias. Which is why I included the other coaches, and I put in a lot of effort researching Mike McCarthy, John Gruden, and Sean Payton. I put in a ton of effort to make sure people knew that I wasn't on there just for Harbaugh, even though Harbaugh was my original motivation, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole, fire Harbaugh was the reason I wrote that article. I'm like, this is why we don't fire him. He's this good. We don't. You don't get rid of a good head coach. You don't do it. The teams who do suck immediately after, right?
Yeah, and then you end up with a guy like Steve Wilkes.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that frustrates me about Cardinal fans is from 2 years ago, this team has come so far with Cliff Kingsbury. And he's not perfect, but he's also still learning, and he's adapting and changing this offense almost week to week. And that's something I want to talk about when we get into the matchup, because I don't want to spend a huge time going in depth with the Cardinals right now. But I wanted to talk about this because you know it, I know it. Ravens fans and Cardinals fans on Twitter are rough, man. Between each other, they don't
get along.
We have a Twitter rivalry right now. and it's pretty intense, honestly.
It's mostly because we both have quarterbacks who are the two best running quarterbacks in the league, and one quarterback, Lamar Jackson, is a better runner, and the other quarterback, Kyler Murray, is a better thrower. So they try and pit them. These fan bases try to pit them against each other and say, "Well, you know what? Kyler Murray's better than Lamar Jackson. Look what he did against the Bills." And then everybody Monday night was like, "Kyler Murray, he's lost 3 of his last 4. We just fucking beat a playoff contender from a comeback win. Lamar Jackson's better." It's crazy.
And I'm guilty of it too. Like, I say Kyler's better than Lamar. And it's not that I'm trying to be biased, but in some ways I really do think he is. But here's the thing. I don't think, yes, in terms of their athleticism and the way they play the game, they are kind of similar. Yes, I get it. But they are not the same quarterback. They really can't be compared.
You know what I will say, tapping off that for just a second? I don't think Lamar Jackson should be compared to any other quarterback because he's that unique. Find me another quarterback who's ever done what he's done besides Michael Vick.
And honestly, neither should Kyler. That's my point, is Lamar is Lamar and Kyler is Kyler. Stop comparing them. Stop comparing them to other quarterbacks because they are their own guy. They don't have a comp. They don't. Stop trying to compare them to Russell Wilson. Stop trying to compare them to Mike Vick. We haven't really seen any prototype for either or comp to either of these guys. Let these two be special and just appreciate them. Like you said prior to the podcast, and like I've had this opinion for a while, Kyler is a throw-first quarterback who has the athletic ability and can run. But Kyler, I'll say it right now, he doesn't like running. And sometimes,
I like to joke he's a little bitch about it.
He's scared to run. Right, he's scared to run sometimes. Lamar, on the other hand, he is a run-first quarterback who is an average thrower. And this isn't a knock on Lamar. You know, because I know Ravens fans are probably like, "Oh, shut the fuck up, you're so dumb." I do think Kyler is better. I genuinely think
so do I. I agree. He's got a better arm.
I love Lamar. I do. And I like to joke and meme and say Kyler's better and all that. But I also kind of back it up. But also keep in mind, prior to that draft, I said to you that Lamar is the best quarterback in this draft class, and I want the Cardinals to draft him. I wanted Lamar. And when the Ravens did take him, you were upset. And
I was so upset.
You aren't going to regret. Right. And I was like, you aren't going to regret this. Lamar's going to be a really, really good player at this level. He's not the prototypical quarterback, and I know that's why you don't really like it at the time, but that's what the NFL is going to. So you got, as Cardinals and Ravens fans, here's my message to you. I get it. What I'm saying, you guys, some of you don't give a shit, and that's fine. But here's my opinion. They aren't the same. They're in extremely different situations. Lamar was drafted into a winning situation. Kyler was drafted into the worst team,
a rebuild,
in the league at the time, and literally one of the worst offenses in NFL history when he came into the league and turned it around. These guys are so different, and their situations are so different. And Lamar supporters and Ravens fans like to say, "Oh, well, Kyler has D-Hop. He's so much better just because – or Lamar's so much better because he doesn't have a guy like that." Well, okay, how about last year when Kyler's number one option was a 36 or 37-year-old Larry Fitzgerald? And now this year, yes, he has D-Hop, and D-Hop's been incredible. Don't get me wrong. But outside of that, Kyler's receivers have been shit pretty much, and they've been wildly inconsistent.
Even Larry Fitzgerald's not good this year.
Even Larry Fitzgerald, he doesn't even have 400 yards receiving. And yeah, part of that's because he missed the last 2 games. But he's not that guy. And Christian Kirk doesn't have more than 30 yards in the last 3 or 4 games. He's disappeared. And, of course, Andy Isabella is probably a bust at this point. You got Dan Arnold, but he's not even the number 1 tight end. So we got to stop comparing them and saying one's better than the other because they're very, very different quarterbacks. And, guys, just stop hating each other. Stop giving each other death threats over this, honestly, because it's ridiculous. Like, it's football, guys. Let's just enjoy it. Let's enjoy these 2 players for what they are, because we're going to get to watch them for many, many years. And you know what? When it's all said and done, then we can have that conversation. But right now, let's just enjoy these guys for what they are. And that's two really, really special players, and leave it at that.
I agree with you fully.
What
you
do
know
you
what the
say,
worst
Sanders?
part about this whole thing is? You know what the worst thing about this whole thing is? They'll see each other once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't even quarterbacks to be like pit against each. It's not like Kyler Murray versus Russell Wilson, right? It's not like Lamar Jackson versus Deshaun Watson, because those you can compare, right? Because they're going to play each other more often because they're both in the AFC, right? Or Patrick Mahomes versus Watson, or Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar. You can do those things. Murray's going to... Does the NFC even have quarterbacks?
What do you mean?
Legit question. Does the NFC have quarterbacks besides Russell Wilson?
I mean...
I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about like mobile quarterbacks like Murray and Wilson. Does the NFC have it? I'm trying to think right now. Dak Prescott.
I mean...
Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott will be one we talk about.
Now Jalen Hurts.
Well, we'll see if Jalen Hurts is permanent.
Let's wait. Right.
Yeah. But Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray will
but...
be one we look forward to all the time. That'll be once every year, once every 2 years, depending upon how division, standings turn out. Like, trying to look at nothing in the NFC South, nothing in the NFC North. Like, Kyler Murray versus Aaron Rodgers just doesn't sound exciting to me. Like, they're both great quarterbacks, right? But that's not like the matchup I think of when I want Kyler Murray to play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's really no quarterbacks. I sit there and think this is a great matchup for Kyler Murray. I just think Wilson Murray, and I think Murray Prescott. That's kind of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, that there's no conversation for Murray Jackson because it's going to happen once every 4 years, dude. And the only time it would not happen once every 4 years is a Super Bowl, which is so highly unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hate the slander on both quarterbacks or like comparison between the two because it's not necessary. Mm-hmm. It really is not. But that's my opinion.
Bottom line, Ravens, Cardinals fans, Kyler Murray stands, Lamar Jackson stands.
Be more like the head couch analysts.
Can we all just get along?
Get along.
Yeah, come on, we're a Cardinals and Ravens fan here. And don't get me wrong, when we meet each other every 4 years, we talk shit all week long.
Oh, yeah.
And when the day comes, when the Cardinals and Ravens meet at Super Bowl, whether it's 3 years from now, whether it's this year, or when we're 90 years old, Sanders, we're going to be beating the shit out of each other, and we might end up killing each other that week. But at the end of the day, we're still best buds. We're still going to record this podcast.
Yeah, we value our friendship over our football team. Yeah. And I understand, that there's a difference between, like, us and, like, two random Joe Schmoes on Twitter going at it. But honestly, like, you should appreciate how great – it was like people who compared Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. The answer is both. Right? The answer was both. Not, Tom Brady's better because of wins, or Peyton Manning's better because he has the stats, right? No, it was just, it's both. Tom Brady knows how to win better than Peyton Manning does, but Peyton Manning was more athletically gifted. Right? It was both. The answer was both. Now, if you want to talk about, like, Tom Brady versus Philip Rivers, then, I'll say, hey, it's Tom Brady. Don't play with me. But if you're talking about two guys who play similarly and they're both, like, goats in their own right, enjoy it, man. Do you know how much I miss watching Peyton Manning sometimes? Do you know how much I just really want to watch a classic gunslinger? Just a guy dissect a team? Because it doesn't happen anymore.
Which is why I miss Andrew Luck so
Andrew
bad,
Luck was the next coming. He was, and, well, I mean, I guess we still have, like, Ben Roethlisberger, but Ben Roethlisberger doesn't excite me.
He's not what he is anymore.
Yeah.
He's not what he was.
Yeah, so...
You even see it. Like, I believe it's still true. He's actually has the quickest, from snap to release, the quickest release in the NFL. It's like 2.2 seconds from when he gets the ball to when he throws it. And that's the fastest in the NFL. He's not what he was.
Yeah.
Anyway, that being said, that's all I got on that. I'm tired of talking about it because it's been a thing on Twitter for months now. So... I think I'm ready to head into our passing from the couch segment. And in that case, I'll let you take over since I took over the takeaways from this week for the most part. So you go ahead.
Sounds good. So my first one that I want to do for my first down completion is the Saints are this year's 2015 Broncos, 2012 Seahawks. Whatever defensive-minded team that has double-digit wins comes to mind, that's this year's team. That's what they are. What came to mind about this was, and maybe I didn't phrase it well over the weekend when we were talking about it, but y'all voted on a poll we had about Taysom Hill versus Drew Brees starting in the playoffs. And 79% of you... What?
I recant.
79% of you voted for Drew Brees and 21% voted for Taysom Hill out of 29 votes. At the time, Pardue was on the Taysom Hill side, and I was on the Drew Brees side. And the reason why I was on the Drew Brees side is because I knew the Saints. I know the Saints this year, and I never said this, but I knew it in my head, and I wish I had said it to you. They win games through their defense. They're not winning it through their offense. So it doesn't matter to me who's at quarterback in the sense that like I could care less who the athletically gifted quarterback is because you just need to not turn over the ball. Let the Saints defense win the game for you. Let Alvin Kamara make some plays. Give Michael Thomas a couple tosses. Let your role players do what they need to do to move the ball enough to score. But ultimately, you're not doing 80-yard drives with this team. You are setting yourself up with 50, 60-yard drives, short fields set up by the defense because this is a defensively dominant team. They are defense-first team, and that's how they're going to go to the Super Bowl if they go to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they will. I don't know. After the Eagles debacle, it looks kind of scary. But this Saints defense is the reason they will win it all if they do happen to win. And that is also why I value Drew Brees over Taysom Hill. Because if I'm only asking the offense to just say, hey, don't turn over the ball, just read the defense well and manage the clock, manage the yardage, then yeah, I want Drew Brees as the quarterback. Throw your stupid 4-yard slants to Michael Thomas so he can run it for 20 yards. Throw the screens to Kamara because Kamara can dodge every tackler in the world. Yeah, that's a great game plan because you only need to go 60 to 50 yards because this is a defense-first team with the Saints, which is really shocking to say because 5 years ago, that was not the case. Right? 5 years ago, they were the worst defense in the NFL. Historically bad. Really bad. Like how bad the Seahawks are defensively right now, that's how bad they were. I think they still have the most points allowed per game in NFL history from like 2014 or 15 or whatever it was. They were terrible. And now the script is flipped, but it reminds me of the 2015 Broncos and 2012 Seahawks. You win through your running back and your defense, and you let the person who's playing quarterback at the time, Russell Wilson, at the time a very old Peyton Manning on his last legs, and now an old Drew Brees. Let them make mistake-free passing yards. Let them throw for 180, 200 yards. That's all you need. Saints are defense-first team. That's my takeaway from the whole thing. They are this year's 2015 Broncos, this year's 2012 Seahawks. Like I said, whatever defensive team that was in the playoffs last decade you can think of. That's what they are.
Right. And yeah, I agree with this point. Like you brought up the poll from this last week, and like while I plead the fifth on my Taysom Hill take, I did have some reasoning behind it because I felt like the offense was more dynamic, but I do agree with you from the standpoint that that's not what's going to win them games in the playoffs and down the stretch here. They need Drew Brees back, but my only question is how healthy is Drew Brees going to be? And that's actually something I'm going to get into here in my first down. I'm not going to spoil too much here at the moment because I'll be getting that into a minute, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying there wholeheartedly at this point.
All right, cool. Let's get to your first down.
You mean my check down?
Oh, yeah, check down. My bad. Not first down, check down.
This one's pretty easy. And everybody's going to agree with this. Especially after this last week where we saw kicker struggles throughout the league. And everybody already knows this, but Justin Tucker, he just needs some appreciation here. He's the best kicker in the league. And every NFL team needs to be jealous. Maybe outside the Falcons, because Younghoe Koo has been so damn good this year. Like, I saw like a tweet earlier today that said, "Oh, who's the most improved player in the National Football League this year?" And obviously, the answer's Josh Allen. And while I was being kind of a smartass, I said Young Ho Koo. And while I was being a smartass because it's obviously Josh Allen, but it's not off base because Koo, at the beginning of this season, he wasn't supposed to be on a football team. He was about to be out of this league. And now he's probably the second best kicker in the league, only behind Justin Tucker. But I just want to give some appreciation to Justin Tucker real quick because of that game-winning kick he had the other night. Because that wasn't just any normal kick. I know it's just a field goal or whatever, but that was a special kick. And I know I'm talking a kicker right now, but that's something you got to appreciate because lots of NFL teams never get that. That was a 55-yard field goal in the elements, in the wind, in the cold. That ball was probably like kicking a damn brick, and he made that thing like it looked easy. And he just like curved it just perfectly, and it went just right down the middle from 55 yards out. And it's just like when the second he rolled out there, I was like, yeah, he's making this. I haven't felt like that about my kicker in a very long time, where it's like, yes, that's just an automatic make. So I just wanted to give, my hats off to Justin Tucker because I don't think he's underappreciated, but just for the value of a kicker, he deserves some appreciation. That's all.
I'm going to upgrade your check down to field goal, my guy.
All right, fair enough. So since we were talking about the Saints, I'm gonna go ahead here and do my first down too, since that's what it's on. Mm-hmm. And this one's pretty hot. Like, this one could have been my Hail Mary. And at this point, I'm going to say it now. Packers are going to be the number 1 seed.
All right.
That's how I see the schedule. And that's not the take. So right now, the Packers are, I feel very strongly that they're going to be the number 1 seed. And that, to me, spells doom for the Saints. And let me tell you why. The Saints are going to be a wild card team, and honestly,
you're saying they're going to lose to the Cardinals or Vikings?
And I'm not saying it's because, I think the Cardinals are better or anything, but I think they will. I don't know if they'll make it past the first round, but let me tell you why. Number one, home field advantage in the playoffs this year is a sham. Even if you do allow fans, it's only been a couple thousand. It's not going to make a difference. And now in the playoffs, like home field advantage during the regular season, okay, it's one thing. It's not that big of a deal. In the playoffs, it's a completely different monster, especially when you're going to New Orleans. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So they're not going to have that advantage. So start there. And yes, this is a very, very good defensive football team. And that's what they're going to be going off of. And at this point, yes, Drew Brees should be back, and he will be the starter at that point. But how healthy is he really, really going to be? Is my question. And don't get me wrong, I could be completely off base here, and the Saints go on a run, be perfectly fine, and they'll end up in the Super Bowl. And I could see it. But to me, quite honestly, Drew Brees, he's not going to be 100%. He's going to be rusty at that point, and I know this isn't a team that's going to be built to go on a run due to their offense. I know it's going to be the defense, but if you can't get a lot or enough from your offense, you're going to struggle. If Drew Brees is back and he's a statue back there, and he's going to have to go up against defensive fronts that are pretty, above average in the Cardinals and the Vikings, and he's taking shots to the ribs, you could have a Kurt Warner, bounty gate situation where he's going to get absolutely beaten up, and it's going to be a rough time. So even if they do get past the wild card, I don't see them going on a run. And I know I've kind of been a downer on the Saints all year. This is a great football team. They're an incredible football team. It's next man up mentality. They're a special team. I will give them that. But I don't think they are as good as they were in previous years, and they didn't get it done in previous years. So to me, it's I don't know. I can't see this team going on a run right now. And maybe it's due to the recency bias of them just losing to the Eagles as well. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in this team, and I could see a team like the Cardinals going in there, and if D-Hop and Kyler have a really, really good day, and Vance Joseph comes in with a great game plan, that was now – because the Eagles just planted the blueprint to beat the Saints. And if Vance Joseph can take that blueprint and bring more of his complex blitz packages like he has been this year, and – Mike Zimmer, with his great defensive mind, going there, and the Vikings already own the Saints. I don't know, man. That's going to be a really, really tough matchup for the Saints. Never the matter of who they play. So that's just my take. I honestly, again, I'm not trying to be a Saints hater, and I'm sure if there is Saints fans listening, they're probably turning off the podcast at this point. But that's what I think. What are your thoughts?
You know. I don't think I don't know if the Saints. It all depends on how good their offensive production is, because like I was saying before, it's their defense, right? Mm-hmm. But always with defensive teams, when your defense falters, can your offense step up, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know the answer. Yes or no? Maybe so. If the offense can step up, then I say they're making it to the NFC Championship bare minimum.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
And that's another reason why I would like, honestly, because like I saw a Cardinals fan post this week. They're like, "Oh, if the Cardinals make the playoffs, we're on a collision course to be the 7th seed. And we're either playing the Packers or the Saints." And I thought really long and hard about it. I was like, who would I honestly rather play? I was like, the Cardinals have owned the Packers in the playoffs, and I mean, even in the regular season over the last 10 years almost, dating back to the 2009 playoff game. And then I thought about it. I was like, okay, we've done that all basically at home, though. And I don't want to go on the road to Lambeau Field in January. Fuck that. I'd rather go play in a dome in a climate-controlled environment versus a quarterback that's going to be limited, who is a statue, who's been hurt this year. And the thing that gave me confidence that the Cardinals could beat them is what the Eagles did offensively to that defense. And that was having a mobile quarterback, a very mobile quarterback, who ran for over 100 yards, and their running back, Miles Sanders, who also ran for over 100 yards. Did you know that in 50 straight games, the Saints did not allow a 100-yard rusher, and they allowed 2 against the Eagles?
Huh, that's interesting.
If the Cardinals could go in, establish the run, Kyler uses his legs, which at that point, it's win or go home. Kyler's going to be using his legs a lot. And if D-Hop can go off and Kenny Drake can have a good day, the Cardinals are going out of that game victorious. And that's just my opinion. And I'm not trying to be biased here. That's just what I've seen from the Saints the last couple of weeks, and that's just my opinion.
By the way,
and now I totally see the world where the Saints completely crush their ass by 40 as well. So that's just what I think.
I just want to let you know. I'm just looking at like playoff matchups, right? If the Cardinals win out, you don't want to win out. You don't want to be 10-6, just so you know. If you're 10-6, the Seahawks play the Saints because you have the tiebreaker over Seahawks at that point at 10-6, and you would play the Rams a third time.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, but this relies on you beating the Rams week 17, but then you just have to play them all over again the following week. Mm-hmm. You playing the Rams is never a good thing. You want to lose that week 17 matchup.
That's what's one thing that worries me is maybe the Rams don't have anything to play for that week 17. They don't play anybody, and we do beat them. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So we'll see how it all plays out. It'll be interesting.
I could see the Saints not making it far, though. It really just depends on how does their offense bounce back with Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about it.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, cool. So this actually goes with what we were saying, too. So I'm going to tell you right now, in either the AFC or NFC, we're going to have a number 7 seed win a playoff game this year.
Oh, yeah.
One of the two. Because the number 7 seed in the AFC is going to be Baltimore, Indianapolis, or Miami. And all 3 of those teams can win a playoff game. Aha, meme. Ravens can't do it. Ha ha ha, you're wrong. Yeah, whatever. And then on the other side, if the Cardinals win out, they'll get the number 6 seed, and the Seahawks would be number 7 playing the Saints. This is me going off of like my schedule projections and assuming that the Saints win out outside of the Chiefs beating them this Sunday. I'm assuming the Saints finish 12-4. They lose to the Chiefs and finish 12-4. That's my assumption. Or the Cardinals play the Saints, which I could also see the Cardinals beating the Saints. I don't think it's as likely, but I could see it, right?
Right.
And then if you go to the flip side, Buffalo's got the number 2 seed in hand, more than likely. There is a shot that Pittsburgh still carries it if they beat Cleveland week 17. But if Pittsburgh beats them week 17, right, Pittsburgh plays probably Indianapolis or Miami. Pittsburgh can lose that game versus Indianapolis or Miami. If Cleveland wins week 17, Buffalo plays against Indianapolis, and Buffalo can still lose that game against Indianapolis. I have the Ravens finishing 5th or 6th seed because I have them winning their last 3 games. They play the Jaguars, Giants, Bengals. They have a cupcake schedule. I'm assuming those are 3 wins for Baltimore. I don't think that's biased, right?
Right.
Okay. So Baltimore's making it in at 11-5. This really just depends on the matchup of the Steelers and Browns week 17. Like, 4 seeds change if the Steelers win that game or the Browns win that week 17 matchup. 4 seeds in the AFC change. If the Steelers win, they are the number 2 seed. The Bills are the number 3. Cleveland's the number 6, and Baltimore's the number 5. If Cleveland wins, Buffalo's the number 2. Pittsburgh's the number 3, Baltimore's number 6, and Cleveland's number 5. It's kind of nuts how much week
honestly
how much that week 17 game affects seeding.
Mm-hmm. The playoff picture in both conferences right now is really, really a mess. I think it's becoming clearer and clearer each week, but in terms of the teams themselves are becoming clear, but the seeding still is just an absolute mess, and that's why these next couple weeks are going to be really.
By the way,
fun.
This was under the assumption that the Bills beat the Dolphins. If the Dolphins beat the Bills week 17, then 5 seeds change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's insane, man. That's what I'm saying. The seeding is just a mess.
By the way, if the Dolphins beat the Bills week 17, Indianapolis would not make the playoffs at 11-5 as a number 8 seed.
Dude, that's rough, man. I'm glad I'm not a fan of an AFC team.
Take out the NFC East. Give the Colts the 11-5 spot.
Guess what? I mean, we're getting an 8th seed now in the playoffs now because everybody's going to be like, oh, there's an 11-5 team with extended playoffs. Now we got expanded again. And then a 5-win team's going to get in next year or the year after.
I don't think that'll happen, but
Right, no, I don't think it will either, but I mean, you never know.
The AFC is just incredibly stacked this year, and there will be
it really is.
There will be probably 2 good teams who miss the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. 2 good teams that have a potential to make a run.
For example, 9-7 is normally good enough to get into the playoffs, but Las Vegas will probably miss it at 9-7. Mm-hmm. The Colts, Dolphins, or Ravens are going to actually the Ravens won't miss out at 11-5. They're guaranteed a playoff spot if they go 11-5, so they won't miss out. But the Dolphins or Colts could miss out at 11-5. It's just kind of crazy how the matchups are this year. And then I look at the NFC. You have the top 2 teams of every single division are decent. Sorry, the top 2 teams in every division are decent in the NFC, and then the bottom 2 teams are just garbage.
Right.
Yeah, wild. So yeah, that's what I got. Number 7 seed winning a playoff game. I think it's very believable.
Yeah, I would agree. So for my Hail Mary, I really didn't want to talk about the Cardinals much this podcast, but I said something on Twitter the other day. I think it was yesterday or it was the day before, but I said the Cardinals should consider trading Chandler Jones. And even you said, okay, that's a big mistake. Do you want to contend for a Super Bowl next year? And yes, obviously.
Well, I think if the answer is no, you can't, then you trade him.
Right. But I think they can contend without him. And I'm not just saying because of Hassan Reddick's 5-sack game. And number one, people need to stop downplaying that. That's only happened 17 times in NFL history since they started tracking sacks as an official statistic. And he also, I know PFF is kind of a thing that, I have a love-hate relationship with PFF, but this is kind of a little snippet that I think, worth mentioning, is Hassan Reddick had a 97.1 pass rushing grade on Sunday, which is the highest grade they've ever granted an edge rusher since they started giving individual grades to players back in 2006. So that's a little worth something. Hassan Reddick's finally in his position, and I'm not saying he's as good as Chandler Jones. I'm not saying he's going to go out and get 5 sacks every game. But what I am saying is ever since Chandler Jones did go down, is Vance Joseph I'm going to say it, this is even a bigger Hail Mary, that Vance Joseph has been the best coach on the Cardinals coaching staff since Chandler Jones went down. Because of that, he's had to supplement pass rush. And yeah, he went out and got a guy like Marcus Golden, who's really, really helped. Hassan Reddick has really come into his own, and he now has 10 sacks in the season. But even guys like Dennis Gardeck, who's played 40 defensive snaps in his entire career, all coming this year, has 5 sacks. He's supplementing pass rush and using players to their strengths. He's doing an incredible job. And honestly, if he keeps it up, he might get some recognition and end up getting interviews for a head coaching job again. And I honestly think that. Anyway, going back to Chandler Jones. Now, there's a lot that goes into this. In my opinion, if you could bring back Marcus Golden cheap, which you probably could because he absolutely loves it here. And it's funny, Marcus Golden was on a mic'd up this week, and at his very last line on his mic'd up was, "Man, I'm so much happier here than I was there." He deadass said that about the Giants. And I thought that was really funny. But he loves Arizona. And if you can get Hassan Reddick back on, like a 3 or 4 year deal worth like $10 million a year, I would take that and run. Chandler Jones is like a $17 million cap hit next year. Now, the offer has to be right. I'm not trading Chandler Jones for a 3rd round pick. If you're not getting bare minimum a second back, don't do it. But if a desperate team needing pass rush, i.e. the Raiders, let's say maybe even not necessarily the Colts, but the Colts could really use a pass rusher, an elite pass rusher. Every team needs an elite pass rusher. There would be suitors. It's just, what would you get back? If the Cardinals can at least get a second back, I love Chandler Jones, and he's an elite pass rusher, don't get me wrong, but I'd say goodbye. And I love Chandler, but Vance Joseph has proven he can supplement pass rush, and it'd be just as fine without Chandler this season. And if you can get the capital back and save that money, I say you got to do it. And I got so much hate on Twitter for it. I know it's because of a lot of Cardinal fans absolutely love Chandler Jones, and it's hard for Arizona fans to really let go of players they love. But don't we kind of regret not trading Patrick Peterson back in 2018? And I would be obviously 100% against this, and I would be so mad if it happened. But don't we kind of feel like we're overpaying Larry Fitzgerald? It's not like I would want him to walk, but I mean, the smart financial situation and the smart thing to do as the franchise would be to not be paying him $11 million for 340 yards or whatever it is right now, So I know it's hard to get rid of players you love as a fan, but you also got to look at it from a financial and franchise standpoint. And honestly, if the compensation is there, you got to say goodbye. And that's just my take. And it's funny. I even saw another person on Twitter basically say my exact same take. They're like, "Oh, if they get good compensation for it, would you be okay with trading Chandler Jones?" And people all under it were like, "Yeah, I'd be okay with that. It'd be hard, but I got fucking ratioed." So thanks, Cards fans. But that's my take.
All right, sounds good. I think that's fine. So my Hail Mary isn't necessarily a hot take, but it's more of a soapbox moment. Okay? I don't think I've really gotten on my soapbox this season, and I'm going to get on it, okay? And if I start sounding like I'm getting pissed, it's because I am. kind of mentioned it a few weeks ago, but I'm getting on my soapbox about it now, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks, probably 9 or 10 or 11 the more I think about them, that I'm going to talk about. Okay? And it kind of stems from the Lamar Jackson-Kyler conversation we talked about earlier, but it more stems from the events of Monday night, what I saw from Lamar Jackson, Baker, and just overall me looking at the quarterback landscape. The NFL fan base, Twitter, Facebook, just it doesn't matter. Anybody who comments on NFL stuff, and I know they exist in bars because I've heard them say it at Native. I've heard them say it at, it was in downtown Gilbert. Oso. I was at Oso and I was watching a game at Oso. NFL fans are so biased and so blind to the fact that we are in the greatest generation of quarterbacks all time.
Oh, yeah.
All time.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. Fucking close. And yet we want to sit here and say Lamar Jackson sucks. We want to sit here and say Baker Mayfield's not that good. You're going to fucking tell me Tom Brady's washed up? You're going to seriously say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, he's just a product of Devontae Adams? These are all things I'm quoting, by the way, that I have heard all year. The one that makes me the most furious isn't the Lamar Jackson one. It's Patrick Mahomes is overrated. I've seen that more times this year than I ever thought possible. Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me? You're seriously going to tell me? First of all, I'm going to be on my soapbox for the next 5 minutes, so let me rant here.
That's cool. Let's go.
Let me go quarterback by quarterback. Lamar Jackson, let's examine the complaints about him. Okay? So I will admit, I did not like Lamar Jackson at first. You know what my complaints were about him when I watched him in college? He ran too much. Couldn't fucking throw the ball. You know what he did on a Saturday night, December 23rd, 2018? Proved me wrong. 63-yard touchdown to Mark Andrews, and I was a believer ever since. Then he went on to be MVP. And coming into this year, Lamar Jackson can't win from behind. Okay, week 10 of this year against the Indianapolis Colts defense, 10 for 10 in the second half. 10 for 10, 120 yards. The same Colts defense that held Aaron Rodgers to 7 points in the second half and is the reason they beat the Packers. That same Colts defense was shredded by Lamar Jackson, 10 for 10. Okay, beat the storyline that he can't play from behind. Oh, he can't make a comeback in the 2 minutes. Did you fucking watch Monday Night Football? Because he did it twice. He came out cold. Came out cold from whatever the fuck you want to call it. Cramps, the bathroom, I don't care. On a fourth and 5, there's a 44-yard touchdown. Essentially sealing the game. What do the Browns do? They tie it back. So now it's up to Lamar Jackson again, to have to drive the ball down the field. Something he supposedly can't do in the final 2 minutes, and he does it. Justin Tucker, field goal winner. Lamar Jackson slander shouldn't exist because every time someone's ever said he can't do something, he does it. Now, is his throwing wildly consistent? Has he won a playoff game? Do you want to talk about his deep ball accuracy? Let's have a conversation. Because you're right. He needs to work on his deep ball. He hasn't won a playoff game yet. And there are times when he throws some really pretty balls, but they're overthrown. You know what? I give it to you. But are we going to sit here and pretend that he isn't one of the best in the NFL right now? I don't fucking think so. So I'm done on my tirade on Lamar Jackson. Let's go to Kyler Murray. Holy shit. We give Kyler Murray so much shit for being short, and yet he's throwing over everyone right now. Batted passes at the offensive line be damned, because it's happening to him a lot, probably because of his height. But he's the quickest guy on the field. Lamar Jackson is a better runner, more athletic, more shifty than Kyler Murray, but nobody is quicker east to west at quarterback than Kyler Murray. Not even Lamar Jackson is better east to west than Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a great quarterback who drops dime. Did you see the Hail Mary? Have you watched Kyler at all this year? Dude, no. Kyler Murray is a great quarterback. I'm tired of the sarcastic Cardinals fans saying Josh Rosen would have made a throw. I'm tired of us slandering Kyler. Forget it. He is the future of the Cardinals. Let's go to Baker Mayfield, a guy who you all know, listeners and Pardue, that I did not like for his first 2 years. His first year, he was exciting, but I thought he was a douchebag. And I said his douchebagness would be his downfall. What do you know? In his second year, Freddie Kitchens be damned. I hated the hire. And we all know that I hated the Browns going into last year. And I think last year's result justifies why I didn't like the Browns last year. Baker was a douchebag again last year, and he played worse. What has he done this year? He shut up. He doesn't say anything. Actually, he has some funny tidbits now. He's got funny commercials. The thing that he said after beating the Titans when they asked how does he make decisions, and he said, I think to myself, would an idiot throw that ball? And then I say, well, no, they wouldn't, so I don't. That's funny because it doesn't target anyone. It's just a Baker type of comment.
I don't want to stop you here because you're on a roll and it's awesome. I haven't seen this side of you in a while. But I do want to just mention Baker real quick because he's been really, really good, especially these last couple of weeks. People were saying, like, I think it was the game. It was a game against the Bills. And it was like, or was it the Bills? I don't remember which game it was. But it was just a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, oh, Baker needs to step up and play well this game. Titans, yes, that's what it was. He needs to step up and play well this game. And he absolutely balled the fuck out. And he was great. And then he did it again versus the Ravens, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I've always said I liked Baker. I've met him. He's actually a really, really nice guy. He's matured a lot. He's still got some ways to go, but he's pretty damn good. I would take him as the Cardinals quarterback. He's a good quarterback.
So
now you can continue.
I want to remind you that Baker Mayfield has beaten the Colts defense, the Washington defense, and had a spectacular game against the Ravens that he was just unfortunately on the losing side of. Baker, the game was over. I repeat, over as soon as Lamar Jackson threw that 44-yard touchdown. It was over. But Baker in the last minute and a half did what good quarterbacks are supposed to do. He made the comeback and he tied the game. That's what good quarterbacks do. Baker played good enough to win. Unfortunately, he was just on the losing side. This whole idea that, Baker is a product of a great offense and a great coach, I will admit, I think the coaching hire is why he's doing well. But the two highest paid offensive role players weren't in the game Monday night. Austin Hooper and Odell Beckham were not on the field Monday night. Mm-hmm. And yet Baker played his best ball. Baker doesn't need your offensive pizzas. He needs a fucking defense. The Browns need to start spending money on defense. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I'm done talking about Baker. Let's go to Tom Brady. Oh, my Lord. If I hear Tom Brady is washed one more time, unironically, I might punch my phone screen and hope it hits the other person through their phone screen. I hope my fist goes through and hits them. Because if you watch Tom Brady play this year, it is a down year. But a down year for the greatest of all time is still an above average year. By the way, do you want to know why he's having a down year? He's in his first year in a new system in 20 goddamn years. Wouldn't you?
And he's throwing the deep ball more than any time in his entire career. He's doing it fairly well.
I know. I just don't get it. Where are these haters coming from? He's not even a Patriot anymore. Is it just because his name is Tom Brady? Because he's won 6 Super Bowls? Because he just wins? Are you jealous? Stay fucking jealous. He is the greatest quarterback of all time. And at age 43, he's doing something we've never seen. And he's still playing ball. He's still playing really well. Highest interceptions he's had in a long time? Sure. But you can mostly point that to the fact that most quarterbacks their first year in a Bruce Arians system throw a ton of interceptions. Tom Brady is no different. Well, he's the greatest of all time. Shouldn't he surpass that? No, because that's just how the system is. And also think about this. Every time Tom Brady has played, he gets players to adapt to their system. Now, Tom Brady has to adapt to a system with the rest of his players. Next year, I expect Tom Brady to actually be better than this year. Father time, I don't think exists for him. I really don't think it exists for him. I truly believe that. It doesn't exist for him. Let's go on to Aaron Rodgers. Let's go on to Aaron Rodgers for a second. So 2 years ago, we started saying Aaron Rodgers is just average now. And we had some reasoning for it. Partially the injuries, partially the fact that he just wasn't performing as well. Ever since Matt LaFleur came in, which, by the way, we don't talk about Matt LaFleur enough. Matt LaFleur, I believe, is 29-6 right now. 23-6. So something stupid. Something stupidly good, right? Mm-hmm. Ever since Matt LaFleur came in, and knew how to use Rodgers' talents. Rodgers has been elite. The last 2 years, Rodgers has been elite. I'm starting to think 2 years ago, it was not Aaron Rodgers declining. It's just the game plan sucked. And I understand quarterbacks play better than the game plan sometimes, and Rodgers did. Those few Aaron Rodgers moments were because he was playing better than the game plan. But unfortunately, the game plan isn't just for the quarterbacks, for the team. I don't ever want to hear how arguably the most talented statue quarterback, and Rodgers isn't technically a statue because he's mobile, but he's probably the closest thing to young statue at this point when it comes to those type of quarterbacks. He is the most athletically gifted statue-style quarterback we've seen probably since Steve Young. I don't care that he's from Green Bay. People love to hate on Green Bay Packers fans because they've been spoiled for 2.5 decades with quarterback play, and they are a franchise that owns the most NFL titles in NFL history. And I said NFL titles for a reason because that's what they own. They own 13. And I think it's 3 Super Bowls. 3? Yeah, 3, 4. They own 4. 1 with Rodgers, 1 with Favre, 2 in the beginning. I'm done. He's playing like an MVP this year. I think as of right now, Aaron Rodgers is my MVP pick for this year. My personal one. I'm sick of hearing about how Rodgers is a product of Matt LaFleur. And no, he was never a product of McCarthy, and he's not a product of LaFleur. LaFleur just knew this is what Aaron Rodgers is, and this is what you got to do for Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers. I'm done. Okay, next one. I'm going to eat some crow on this one. Okay, Josh Allen, and you might too. We on this show were not big Josh Allen fans. I didn't like him his freshman year. I didn't like him his sophomore year, and here we are in his junior year. And he's arguably the best, quote-unquote, quarterback of the 2018 draft. And this is a draft with Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson in it. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen has wildly improved his deep ball. He had a team that had placed so much faith in him, and he worked so hard for it. And he's doing so well. And yet, we hated on him because he was inaccurate and inconsistent. We didn't give him the time he needed, and here we are. Josh Allen is balling it up, possibly in the MVP conversation. Like I said, I would give it to Aaron Rodgers, but he's in the conversation. There's not a lot I got to say on Josh Allen because my main point for bringing in Josh Allen is going to go to my final point that I bring up after I talk about Patrick Mahomes. Okay, first of all, if you want to consider probably the greatest quarterback in the game right now overrated, you need to start actually watching football. Everything I've said today about him having a track team, about him having a big body, if you try to cover the track team, is all true. And that's all justifications for why people said he's overrated. That's not justification. I'm sorry, put another quarterback in that offense, they don't perform. I'm sorry, they don't. You know what? We've already seen a quarterback who's elite go to an all-star roster, and they are not performing as well as Patrick Mahomes. It's Tom Brady. He's with an all-star offense, and he is not performing as well as Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the engine to that sports car. It is a sports car. It is decked out with wheels. It's got the best paint. It's got the coolest lights. It's got the wheels. I can literally name everything as a metaphor. The body is Travis Kelce. The wheels are the receivers. And the nice leather seats are the offensive line and the running back. But you know what the engine is that makes that baby go? Patrick Mahomes. Fucking call him underrated again, and I might blow a goddamn gasket. Which is to my main point for this entire rant over Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I have a question for you. Has any elite quarterback ever truly been elite when they first start playing? Outside of Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Peyton Manning sucked when he first started. Tom Brady was a game manager when he first started. Josh Allen, his first 2 years was bad. Derek Carr was very middling. Ryan Tannehill was not good. And these are all quarterbacks that we think are great now. So are we really going to sit here and judge Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray in their first 2 years? Being dead serious. Murray's just finishing his second year of full games. Lamar Jackson is just finishing his second year of full games. And Josh Allen's barely finishing his third, and finally we're seeing his potential. I am done with the NFL fan base constantly criticizing quarterbacks when it is not deserved, and very clearly over history, we do not see the best of quarterbacks. We don't know what we are watching till years later. No one knew Peyton Manning was going to be the greatest. San Diego sure as hell didn't know Drew Brees was going to be what he was going to be. And there's no fucking way even Bill Belichick knew what Tom Brady was. To him, Tom Brady was a mistake-free guy that let the defense carry them to Super Bowls. I'm not saying Tom Brady didn't contribute to those teams, but we all know Teddy Bruschi and Ty Law were the biggest reasons for those Super Bowl wins when they won 3 of 4. And after that, what did Tom Brady become? A 2007 MVP who set the record for touchdowns in a game? A guy who became the greatest comeback ever? Peyton Manning became the touchdown leader, the passing yard leader after an awful first 3 seasons. Drew Brees, after a shoulder injury, is now the GOAT when it comes to stats. So are we really going to sit here and judge Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson for some stupid bullshit when they're barely in their first 4 years? The answer is no. No, you're not. And I'm done with the slander on any of these quarterbacks. That's my rant.
I'm going to give a real quick golf clap. That was beautiful. And everything you said, I just completely, wholeheartedly agree. And I'll just kind of sum it up. You're 100% right. This is the golden age of quarterbacks. We'll never – I'm not going to say we'll never see anything like this again, because I think part of the reason why this is the golden age of quarterbacks is now teams and coaching staffs are no longer trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. I think they're starting to finally adapt their offenses and their teams to their quarterback strengths. And that's a big part of the reason why we're seeing these quarterback success. But also, these guys are just great. They just are. We've never seen anything like this. And it's really great. We're getting to witness this all unfold in front of our eyes. Years and years ago, like quarterbacks, when you had 10 touchdown passes and 20 interceptions, that was a pretty damn good quarterback season, That was a long time ago. Right.
13 touchdowns and 25 interceptions in a Super Bowl winning year.
Yeah. And so back then, that was considered, like decent quarterback play. And to see how far we've come now and to the way this game is adapted and to what we're seeing from quarterbacks nowadays, it's just absolutely insane. It's really great, and it's good. It's great for the league. It provides more competitive football from top to bottom in the league. And I mean, like, even when you look at the teams that have like quarterbacks that aren't going to be there next year, i.e. maybe the Jags, obviously the Jets with Sam Darnold. While I think Sam Darnold at this point is probably a bust, I think if maybe he was put in a situation that was better, he would have had an opportunity to succeed. Gardner Minshew.
I still want him to go to San Francisco. I still want Sam Darnold to go there. I think they can. I think he is recoverable. I don't think he's broken. But that's just me.
Right. So my point is, like, even the bad quarterbacks, or the quarterbacks that we consider to be bad, like actually bad and not just being dumbass fans, like the quarterbacks that are like actually poor in the league, you think you can make arguments that, okay, maybe these guys, if we were given the proper situation, they could be manageable and be decent. And that just kind of like goes to show, it's not like we're rolling out guys to be starters like Richard Bartell and Tom Savage anymore. We're rolling out guys that can play in this league, even on the bad teams. So yeah, I'm 100% right there with you.
So yeah, that was my 7-8 minute soapbox. I don't even know, but after Monday night, I saw so many people up in arms about Lamar Jackson, whether he's good or not. The Kyler Murray comparisons because of our fan bases. People talking about Josh Allen, and And people saying how Baker Mayfield, just doesn't have it yet after Monday night. I'm like, dude, he had it. He just didn't win. He can't control the fact that the opposing, team scored 45 points. He can't control that. Mm-hmm. Right? I am done with quarterback slander. We are living in the best generation of quarterbacks ever. If you ever see me tweet anything negative about a quarterback again, please ratio it, because it's not going to happen for me anymore. It's not. I am going to appreciate every quarterback I watch. And you know what's so exciting too? We're not done yet. Justin Herbert's coming in, Joe Burrow's coming in, and Tua's coming in. It's a great time.
And now let's look at this quarterback draft class that's coming up, because this, honestly, it's premature, but this upcoming quarterback draft class, oh shit, dude, this might be the best quarterback draft class of all time, with guys like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Kyle Trask, Zach Wilson. There's so many, and like, he's a lower name guy, and I don't expect him to be good, but he's a guy that's getting, decent draft comps. And it's Mac Jones out of Alabama. Like, I don't expect him to be great or anything, but you have names that are coming into this league and quarterback prospects that are going to be good. It's only going to keep getting better from here. And we're living in the golden age.
I will say right. It will be really hard to beat the 2004 class of Manning, Rivers, and Roethlisberger. That will be hard to do.
Yeah, you're right. That's going to be tough.
You know what's funny? Obviously, we might have it with Mayfield, Jackson, and Allen. We might have it.
You might. And Josh Rosen if he ever gets his chance.
Oh, my goodness. I hope Josh Rosen gets a chance at something again, but at this point, I think it might be done for him.
It's okay. He's taken over Tom Brady's spot. He's learning in the Bruce Arians offense now, so when he first comes in, he's not going to throw a bajillion picks. He's only going to throw like 3 and 40 touchdown passes, and he can be MVP. It's just a fact.
The Rosen one is coming back.
The Rosen one.
You know what would be great for the Rosen one name? So this will be 2 years since he's been out of the league, right? Mm-hmm. And on the 3rd year, he rose again. I'm sorry, I had to.
It's funny because he's Jewish.
Oh no, bad joke. My bad.
Now we can move on.
All right, week 15. Sorry, my bad. Week 15, we're gonna get to our picks now. We got Saturday and Thursday football, which is fun. So we got a lot of local games we're gonna be watching. Unfortunately, tomorrow night's game I don't think is like great in terms of playoffs, but it's a cool AFC West divisional game. It's the Chargers and the Raiders. What you got here?
So Chargers and Raiders, like we said, I feel like at this point, I think the Raiders are out of the playoff picture in the AFC just because it's such a mess. Obviously, they're not mathematically eliminated, so they still got everything to play for, and they're going to give the Chargers their best shot. But honestly, I kind of like the Chargers in this one. And I might be totally off base here. I just think it's – I felt like this pick's kind of a coin toss. I certainly don't think the Chargers are a bad team. I think they've had a lot of injuries. That's really hurt their defense, and so on and so forth. But again, Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. He's got Keenan Allen, who's one of the best receivers in the league. And Austin Eckler came back and had a really good game this last week too. And he's only going to get more and more implemented back into the offense. And he's a really good damn weapon. And I think they'll take advantage of that bad Raiders defense, and they'll come out with a win.
Ooh, you got the Chargers winning this one.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit spicy. Honestly, all my picks are kind of spicy this week.
Yeah, I got the Raiders winning this one. After watching the debacle that was the Chargers losing to the Patriots, I can't honestly pick the Chargers anymore at this point. And by the way, the last game that the Chargers played, they played against the Falcons. Mm-hmm. And they beat the Falcons, but I can't say that gives me confidence to say, hey, you beat the Falcons just barely because they blew it, right? I don't see the Chargers blowing it. I know where you're coming from, right? It's a good matchup for the Chargers offense. It's a really good matchup for the Chargers offense. I don't think it's enough. So I'm going with the Raiders here.
All right. Yeah, that's fair.
All right, cool. We got the Bills and the Bills. They are the second best team in the AFC right now.
Yeah. Broncos are garbage. I've been saying it all year, Bills.
All right, we got the Panthers and the Packers. You know what's funny? So just last week, the Broncos and Panthers played against each other, and the Broncos won pretty handily. And then they both play on Saturday against elite teams. That's rough. Obviously, I'm picking Green Bay to beat Carolina here, but that's rough.
Yeah, I'm going Green Bay here as well.
Question: Which one do you think is Which one do you think is a better game to watch? Bills and Broncos or Panthers and Packers?
Panthers and Packers for sure.
I knew we were going to disagree on that.
Really, I think the skill position players on the Panthers are, I wouldn't necessarily say must-see TV, but they got really good skill position players, and obviously the Packers are one of the best teams in the NFL, and like they're the class of the NFC. So I think that's must-see TV in itself. I just think the skill position players you're going to be seeing offensively in the Packers and Panthers game is just more appealing than whatever you're going to get out of the Broncos. And yeah, the Broncos got good skill position players as well, but
I think I like the Broncos and Bills more because 3 of their last 4 games, so I'm not counting the Saints one, the 31-3 game because they didn't have a quarterback. But they beat the Dolphins 20-13. They almost beat the Chiefs, and then they beat the Panthers 32-27. Like, the Broncos have been competitively fun. And I expect them to be that against the Bills. I also expect the Bills to, like, run away with it in the fourth quarter, and, like, by, like, 13 minutes left, you'll be like, oh, it's like a 17-point game. This is over, right? Mm-hmm. But I expect it to be, like, a 7, 10-point fun game where, like, the Bills get ahead, you know, like, let's just say by 3. They get a 3-10 lead, right? And then the Broncos score, the Bills score, and the Broncos field goal. Bills score again. So now it's a 10-point game. Denver scores. You know, it's a 3-point game. Bills score. And then by the time we get to the fourth quarter, the Bills just overtake it completely. But I expect it to be like this game where, like, the Broncos are, like, consistently trying to catch up and make it a game, and then the Bills run away with it at the end. I don't expect that with the Panthers. I expect a blowout by Green Bay, just automatically within the first half. I feel like that's why I'm more interested in the morning game than the afternoon game.
Yeah, that might be fair. I don't think it'll necessarily be a blowout in Green Bay with the Green Bay game. I really like the Panthers skill position players with guys like Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, I think, is still nursing an injury, and it's not quite sure what his designation will be for this week. But even then, you still got Mike Davis, who's performed really well this season as well.
All right, so we got the 49ers and the Cowboys. I'll go first here this time around. I got the 49ers winning this not because of their team, but because of their head coach. I think will create a much better game plan than Mike McCarthy will. By the way, Mike McCarthy is confirmed to be the head coach of next year. Lol. That's a big LOL. It's a big LOL.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think it would be, fair to fire Mike McCarthy.
Yeah,
you know how I feel about Mike McCarthy. Right. And Zeke had a down year. That defense didn't perform the way it was supposed to. So I think it would be kind of unfair to fire him this year.
I agree.
But if they aren't really competing and honestly winning that division next year, you probably move on.
I mean, if you ask me, it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
At least in the short term, it's a lose-lose situation. Robert Saleh, I think, is going to own Mike McCarthy's offense, and Kyle Shanahan's going to have a creative game plan. He somehow pulls the best out of mediocre quarterbacks, so 49ers.
That's interesting. I can't pick Nick Mullins. I'm going to go Cowboys, and that's really what I'm going to keep down to it, which is saying a lot because I hate Mike McCarthy, and I actually really agree with what you're saying. To me, this was kind of a coin toss pick as well, but just because Nick Mullins is icky. I won't pick. I can't pick the Niners. I'm gonna go Cowboys.
All right, cool. Sounds good. By the way, I should update you. You do know we're even in record again, right?
Oh shit! All right, fair.
Do you want to know what our records are?
What is it?
We are both at 125 correct picks, my guy.
Damn. What would that put our losses at? Just so I know.
Our losses are currently at, let's see, it was 89. So if I add up the losses, that would be at 90, not 95, 55.
Honestly, that's not too bad.
No, it's not bad. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. But we're having a lot of differences this time around, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting week.
I got the one that I think is a bit spicy here. I'm picking Washington to beat Seattle, mostly because I remember week one, my very first hot take. Do you remember what it was?
I'm sure when you say it, it's going to come right. But I don't know off the top of my head.
So my very first Hail Mary after Washington beat Philadelphia is I said this defensive line was at bare minimum going to drag this team to 6-10.
Mm-hmm.
Here they are at 6-7, and a big reason this team is winning isn't just because of improved quarterback play. It's because their defensive line is mauling opposing offenses.
Their defensive line's insane.
Yes, right. And
They
so
got
far,
decent back end too.
And so far, it's worked out pretty good, I'd say. That hot take. Because remember, I think we had Washington originally going 2-14.
Mm-hmm.
But after that first game, I was like, that defensive line is going to ruin some games. It won't win them a division, which at this point it might.
Yeah.
We didn't know how bad it was at the time.
Right.
But at the time, I was like, it won't win a division. Ha ha ha. But it will put them to 6-10, and here they are at 6-7. And I think they'll maul the Seahawks line. I think the Washington football team is going to do what the Giants did to the Seahawks. They're going to defensively dominate Seattle, and they'll use efficient quarterback play to win the game. But Alex Smith is better than Colt McCoy.
Right. Yeah. No. And it's funny. I actually am right there with you, and you know how I felt about picking Washington this year. But they keep getting better on a week-to-week basis, and that. I'm certainly glad the Cardinals played him when Dwayne Haskins was the starter, because honestly, I think the Cardinals would have a really tough time beating this team with how great that defensive front is.
Yeah, you had a tough time
Chase
even beating with Dwayne Haskins for a little bit, right?
Yeah, for a while. That defensive front is insane. Chase Young is an absolute goddamn monster, and he's going to be a freak of an athlete for many years to come. They're going to dominate that Seattle offensive line, and if they're not going to be able to get the run game going, Russell Wilson's succumbed to pass rush a lot so far this season. And if you're able to get pressure on Wilson, the Cardinals laid the groundwork. Don't get me wrong, Russell Wilson's very special, and he can beat the pass rush. But if it's overbearing and you can confuse him, you're going to beat him. So, yeah, I'm gonna go Washington as well.
Sweet. Cool. Bears Vikings. You already told me you think the Bears are going to win. And my guy, I don't trust it. I don't really trust the Vikings either. I am currently 4-9 when picking Vikings games, so you shouldn't trust my opinion either. But no, sorry, not 4-9, 5-8, 5-8. My bad, because the Buccaneers one worked out for me because I picked the Bucs. I'm 5-8, but that's still not a good track record. Either way, it's cool that the Bears are better offensively under Trubisky. I mean, I think we both kind of thought that was going to happen, but it's always like he plays well or he plays hilariously bad, right?
Right.
And Trubisky does not do well against the Vikings with Mike Zimmer defense historically. So with that, I'm picking the Vikings to win because of Trubisky's track record against Minnesota. And I know you already said earlier that you were picking Chicago, so we got that locked in for you.
Yeah, and I guess I just want to give like a couple little quick reasons for it. I think obviously this Bears defense is really, really good, and I know this is a tall task for any defense. But as long as they can keep Dalvin Cook in check, I think Mitchell Trubisky is motivated because he's fighting for his job. So I think that might be enough. And the Vikings are a very beatable team. Like, any team could go up against the Vikings and beat them. I think as long as their defense plays well, which I expect them to because it's the Bears' defense, they're very monstrous. They're very good, well-rounded defense. And the offense can just do enough, which, I mean, you know how I feel about Trubisky. I don't like him. But if he can do enough, we saw how bad Nick Foles was. And while Trubisky isn't great either, he's light years ahead of Nick Foles, to be quite honest. So I think it could be enough to beat the Vikings.
Yeah, all right, cool. So the Patriots play the Dolphins, and there's certainly an opportunity for the Patriots to beat the Dolphins here. I don't see it happening. I know. Especially... They just don't have any quarterback play. I think that's what bothers me the most. The running game is fantastic. Mm-hmm. They just don't have any. You want to talk about a quarterback who can run and can't throw? Let's talk about Cam Newton. Okay, like I'm being dead serious right now, right? And it's kind of ironic because I said no quarterback slander. But on the real, outside of Seattle, when was the last time Cam Newton had a great passing game? Like for real, when was it? I can't recall. I think it's been a few years, a couple years. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just a product of the Panthers not hyper-focusing on Newton's mechanics, right, as a runner and thrower, right? They told him, hey, you need to stop being a runner. You need to be a statue. And I think that ruined him. You need to let Cam be Cam to win football games. And when the Patriots have let Cam be Cam, he wins football games. But also, in turn, the lack of weapons doesn't help him. Julian Edelman has been hurt. Like, Cam doesn't get to throw because there's no one to throw to. I mean, if Tom Brady couldn't do it, why would Cam Newton be able to do it? Mm-hmm. So I'm defending him here in that case. But on the real, I don't he hasn't been a good throwing quarterback in recent memory. The Dolphins, on the other hand, have Tua, and if Tua does bad, you throw in Fitzpatrick and you're fine. I think the Dolphins win this no matter what happens on the Dolphins side. There's a case to be made that Belichick comes up with a great game plan, but I also think Brian Flores knows Belichick's mind enough to know how to beat that defense.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I am also picking Miami this game. I just think their roster is more well set up, and I know, and it's nothing against the Patriots because I think given what they have, Belichick has coached them to having a really great year. I don't think that Bill Belichick has been given enough credit for how well he's actually coached his team, and to even have them. I mean, they're not in contention, but I mean, the fact that they're still alive right now, given what this roster is fairly incredible, to be quite honest. So hats off to Bill Belichick, and obviously Bill Belichick can always prepare his team to beat anybody, but just given the quarterback situation and the way these rosters are set up, the Dolphins are a really good team. They have a really good defense. They have probably, in my opinion, the best defensive back in the league in Xavier Howard right now.
As much as I hate to say it, because I really don't like the guy, that still might be Jalen Ramsey this year.
Yeah, and it's probably very, very true. And maybe it's just the interception numbers that kind of
really, Xavier Howard's really good. He's very good.
Right. So all in all, I'm going to go Miami.
Cool. So next is Ravens Jaguars. Do you want a hot take, my guy?
No.
What do you mean no?
Because it's wrong. I'm going to tell you right now. If you're saying anything that the Jags might stand any sort of a chance.
You might say this is wrong, but it has nothing to do with the Jaguars having a chance. I'm picking Baltimore to win this game, by the way. I already said it's a 3-0 schedule. This is an easy dub.
I mean, yeah, that's a hot take.
Thanks. No. my possible hot take is that the worst football team in the NFL is actually Jacksonville, not New York.
See, I would agree with that, but I think Jacksonville actually has some decent pieces, and the Jets just don't.
So can you hear me out for
just
for a tiny second, just to humor me?
Wait. Just the one thing I want to say. Do you know how many combined Pro Bowls are on the Jets roster?
I would imagine probably 2.
Take a look. Nope. One.
One?
There's one Pro Bowl player on the Jets roster. You want to know who it is?
Who is it?
Take a wild guess. I'll give you a second to think about it.
Let me think about the roster. Is it Frank Gore?
Yes.
That's it?
That's the only Pro Bowl player on their roster. So, okay, I kind of get where you're coming with your hot take, but at least the Jags have some players. The Jets just don't.
So the reason why I would say it is a hot take is because the Jets are 0-13 and the Jaguars have 1 win. So you're like, boom. Not true, right? Fun fact, okay? The Jaguars, and this is why I say this, if the Jets win 1 game, did you know that the Jaguars will get the number 1 pick if they both finish 1-15? And would you like to know why?
Why is that?
So they don't play each other, so they can't have tiebreakers through that. If they both go 1-15, it is likely they will have the same conference record. So you know what breaks the tie? Whoever has the easier schedule. And the Jaguars have the easier schedule by wins to losses. So theoretically, because they have the easier schedule, the Jaguars should have more wins than they do, but do not. Right? Theoretically, they should have more wins than the Jets, and they currently do. But when you watch the Jaguars, man, they are terrible. They are awful. They're so bad. And Gardner Minshew's playing this week, and God forbid Gardner Minshew mania happens this weekend.
He's going off.
Yeah, right. But this team is terrible. It really is. I mean, yeah, you got DJ Chark. Can you name anyone else? I mean, that's the only one I can think of.
Laviska Shenault, their running back. I forgot his name off the top of my head, but their running back is really, really good. Josh Allen, their pass rusher.
Yeah, that's right.
They got some players, I'm saying, man.
Yeah. But either way, I actually almost firmly believe if the Jets and Jaguars were to play each other, the Jets have a really good shot at winning the game. I don't know who wins, but they're terrible. Anyways, Ravens win this one, right?
Yeah, Ravens.
Okay, cool. I don't really want to talk about this game. You can if you want to. It's the Bucs and the Falcons. I don't even think if Hyde shows up that the Falcons win this game. Do you? I feel like I don't think the Falcons have the defense to shut Brady and the offense down. If this becomes a thing where the Bucs defense falters, I think Brady handles it just fine. Also, I'm going to make a meme here for a second and say even if the Falcons get ahead, Brady's got a history of beating the Falcons from behind. So, I'm sorry, Atlanta. They'll never live it down. Buccaneers. I got it.
Yeah, I'm picking the Buccaneers too. I don't think it's an absolute foregone conclusion because I think obviously the Falcons have a really, really good offense. They really do. It's just their defense can't hold leads and their offense can't play complementary football towards the end of a game, so that doesn't help. And that's why I believe they'll lose, but it'll probably be close. It's not like it's going to be a blowout or anything, in my opinion, to be quite honest. And given how Todd Bowles is a great defensive coach and he coaches great defenses, but we also see that sometimes they just don't necessarily show up, and you never know when that might happen. So do I see the Falcons winning this game? No, but I could definitely, there's
a scenario,
a reality where they do, right?
Yeah. All right, so the next one, at this point, I feel like it's like playoff contenders versus non-playoff contenders, and it's really easy to try and pick based on percentages. The next 2 games are the Colts and the Texans, and the Titans and the Lions. I got the Titans beating the Lions just because, Titans are a playoff team, Lions are not, and I think the Titans are just going to run out the clock with Derrick Henry. And by the way, the Lions have one of the worst rushing defenses in the league, so King Henry
going off for 300 yards.
Exactly, right? So the Colts and would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So not to try and steal a pick away, but I feel like we would agree on that. As for the Colts and the Texans, believe it or not, I'm for the record, I'm not picking Houston. However, I have a gut feeling that Indianapolis loses this game for some stupid, nonsensical reason. And it's just that Phillip Rivers comes out and Deshaun Watson and the Texans take advantage of that. However, logic says the Texans have the second worst defense in the league. T.Y. Hilton just popped off last week. Phillip Rivers is feeling it. The Colts should win this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. The only way the Texans win this game is if it's an absolute shootout and Deshaun Watson throws 6 touchdown passes and 400 yards, to be quite honest. Even if Phillip Rivers does come out and play poorly, I don't expect this Colts defense to get lit up like that, and that's why I'm taking the Colts here.
Okay, cool. So this next one, I feel like you'll have a lot to say on it, and I don't. Yes, the Saints lost to the Eagles. You've also said this before, and it's something that you are mostly correct about. Rookie quarterbacks usually look good their first start because we don't have any film on them. And when we say good, we mean good for a rookie. And it was good enough to beat the Saints, and the Saints almost made a comeback. But I just don't think the Saints defense was prepared for that kind of offense. And what do you know? The Cardinals have a better version of that quarterback in Kyler Murray to practice that type of, game plan. I don't expect the Cardinals to lose to the Eagles simply because they will be better prepared. There's film on Jalen Hurts now. And this Cardinals defense, people, by the way, is straight balling. For the last 5 games, they've been balling. Like, the reason the Cardinals have been losing games is because the offense can't score. Weird to say. But that's the reason. The defense has been the reason they're staying in these games. And the reason they're winning them. The defense is going to handle Jalen Hurts. They'll be just fine. The Cardinals aren't going to lose this game. But that's just me. I don't. The Eagles aren't good. Jalen Hurts will make them competitive against this game. I'm sure the Cardinals will have heart attacks. I'm sure fans will have heart attacks, and they'll see a ton of bitching on Twitter. But at the end of the day, when they finally win like 24-20 or 27-24, y'all will be fine. Like, chill out.
Yeah. Here was one thing. So you remember last week on the podcast, I was very, very doom and gloom, and I thought the Cardinals' playoffs chances, obviously they weren't gone, but I thought it was going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, dude, you had 2 NFC East teams on your schedule. I told you to relax.
No, and that's not why. It wasn't because of the schedule. It was because of how poor the offense had been playing and that everything just kind of disappeared. Now, there was – and the offense still left quite a bit out on the field in this game, but it was light years better. And here's the thing that got me so excited about the Cardinals in this game. And it wasn't just the defense and Hassan Reddick getting 5 sacks and 8 sacks total and the secondary being absolutely locked down. It was not only the offense coming back, it was the most well-rounded in all 3 phases that I've seen the Cardinals play in about 5 years. They were great everywhere. So the thing that got me really, really excited about the Cardinals offense is everything looked different. And now, some of the shit I'm about to say is like, don't all NFL teams do that? Well, the Cardinals this year haven't. So, number one, Kyler Murray took 13 snaps under center. And you're like, okay, so that's a lot of snaps under center for Kyler in this offense. That they don't do I formations and under center snaps in this offense. And they did a lot of it this last week. And they ran more play action and bootlegs and waggles than they have all season. That's what Cardinals fans were begging for. Get Kyler Murray in motion. And we know Kyler Murray wants to stay in the pocket. That's where he's comfortable. He shows it. That's where Kyler Murray is comfortable. And Cliff forced Kyler to get out of the comfort zone, and the offense broke out a bit. They also started finally moving to Andre Hopkins around the field. He lined up in the slot. He lined up far on the right. He lined up not only on the left just this game, and running little out routes and little curls the entire game. He ran a crossing pattern. Oh, my God. It made me come. Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins finally ran a crossing route. It was incredible. And that's something so basic, but that's something this offense wasn't doing, and they're still top 10 and top 5 in so many categories. So Cliff is showing the ability that he needs to adapt his offense, and Kyler's showing the ability that he can get out of his comfort zone. And I think that's going to be way, way huge for this offense down the stretch. And again, if the defense can keep playing the way they are, they're going to be well set up to make a really strong playoff push. And I'm not predicting a run here, but I could see them winning a playoff game. And man, I'd be so happy if they did. But one game at a time.
You should be just saying this as as a residential Suns fan, right? Okay. Any Arizona fan, no matter what team it is, should be grateful just to get in the playoffs, and especially after this year, when you guys were expecting 7-9, 8-8, you should be happy to get in, and just be competitive in the game. Like, who cares if you win it at this point?
In terms of the Eagles, I'm honestly thrilled that they beat the Saints, because I didn't want the Cardinals to sleep on this team, because that's, again, like I've said it 100 times on this podcast, the Cardinals have played up and down to their competition this year. And they took a step forward this last week by not doing that with the Giants, and then they absolutely beat the shit out of them. And that's what they should do. They should beat lesser opponents like that, because that's how good the Cardinals are supposed to be. The Cardinals are a field goal kicker away from 9-4. And that's so frustrating to me. So, this Cardinals team, it's a lot better than their record says, but they're also really young. They played up and down to their competition so far this year. I think as long as they can contain Jalen Hurts and don't let them do what Tua did to them in his second career start, now you've got more film on Jalen than you did Tua, because Tua was really pedestrian in his first game. I think if Isaiah Simmons is spying Jalen, it's going to be really difficult for the Eagles to do much. And with the way this pass rush has been, they're going to eat that offensive line alive. So, I'm picking the Cardinals. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that they win this game. But, I'm going to go Cardinals. And I think they could not obviously mathematically lock it up, but lock their playoff, spot and punch their ticket with a win here this week.
All right, sweet, cool. Wouldn't lock it yet, but close. You'd be close.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, not mathematically, but they could pretty much theoretically punch their ticket, and less crazy shit happens.
Speaking of an NFC West team clinching a playoff spot, the Rams are doing that this week because they're playing the Jets, and the Jets are still coached by Adam Gase, so Rams win it. Chiefs Saints. For me, there's not a lot to talk about this one, and I think you and I already know this. We're both picking the Chiefs because until further notice, nobody's beating them besides a divisional opponent. That's my take. Nobody's beating the Chiefs until further notice. Till it happens. Right, and the reason I say divisional opponent, because for whatever reason, the Chiefs play tough games against the Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos. They just, for whatever reason, struggle against those teams. But it's a divisional, game. I'll give that the excuse. Every other team, no one shows up against Kansas City. Nobody. Mm-hmm. You might get close, but nobody shows up. Kansas City.
Yep, Kansas City. Not much to say.
Cool, sweet. Kind of weird for a game that's probably going to be really hyped up, but whatever, dude. It's Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Browns and Giants on Sunday Night Football. I don't know why they stayed as Sunday Night Football. I thought for sure they would flex KC and New Orleans into this, but they didn't. I guess I kind of get it because both the Giants and Browns are in playoff contention, but quite honestly, Browns lost a tough game. I think they're going to go in and beat the Giants on Sunday Night Football. They'll secure a playoff spot at 10-4. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And again, in this situation, the Giants are no slouch for sure. They beat the Seattle Seahawks a couple weeks ago, and I know the Cardinals just beat up on them pretty good, but I think the Cardinals just came with a great game plan and they executed it perfectly, and that was that. But the Giants are no slouch. They're a decent football team. Obviously, offensively, they're pretty deficient, but that defense has been balling in the second half of the season. They've been really, really good down the stretch. So it's not a foregone conclusion. But I'm going Cleveland.
All right, sweet.
Because I just saw Cleveland drop 42 on an elite defense. So.
All right, so what about Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati? I mean, Pittsburgh's got this one all but wrapped up, right?
Right, yeah. Again, Pittsburgh has now shown, and I'm not the one who's Pittsburgh's the most overrated, blah, blah, blah. No, they're still a really good football team. I know they've lost 2 in a row, but it doesn't matter. They're a good team. They're going to beat the Bengals.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think, if anything, the Steelers have built themselves such a lead that at this point, they finished 13-3 at minimum. I mean, there's no way they don't finish
probably
13-3,
at this
right?
point.
Yeah.
Right.
That Week 17 game versus Cleveland looms very large.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's it from me. Do you got anything?
I think other than that, no. I think I got everything I needed to get out. I know we threw a lot at people this week, and I thought it was a really good episode. I mean, I thought it was good.
And it was all under 2 hours, my guy. So you can follow the Head Couch Analyst Show at HC Analyst. You can follow Pardue at HC Pardue, and you can follow me at HCJC Sanders. We all wrapped up here?
I think so, man. We're in for a good week.
Cool. It's going to be a great week. December football, always fun. Can't wait for the playoffs. Soon we're going to have a couple more guests on here, so be ready for that. Other than that, thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful holiday. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. See you next week.